Get someone to agree to a small, easy request first, and they become significantly more likely to later agree to a much larger, related request they would have refused if asked directly. This foot-in-the-door technique is just one of several well-documented compliance strategies that reliably increase the odds someone says yes. Techniques used everywhere from door-to-door sales to political campaigns to charitable fundraising. Jonathan Friedman and Scott Fraser's classic 1966 field experiment found that homeowners who first agreed to a small, easy request, displaying a small sign supporting safe driving in their window, were dramatically more likely, roughly 4 times more likely in this specific study, to later agree to a much larger, more burdensome request, installing a large, unattractive billboard-sized sign in their front yard, compared to homeowners who were simply asked the large request directly without the smaller initial request first. The most widely supported theoretical explanation for the foot-in-the-door effect is self-perception theory, proposing that after freely agreeing to the initial small request, a person infers something about their own identity and values from that very behavior, concluding, in effect, that they must be the kind of person who supports this particular cause or who generally helps when asked. And this updated self-perception then makes compliance with the subsequent larger, related request feel more consistent with their newly self-perceived identity and therefore more likely. The door-in-the-face technique operates in the opposite sequential order from foot-in-the-door, beginning with an intentionally large, extreme request that the requester fully expects and often intends to be refused, followed immediately by a considerably smaller, more moderate request, which is the requester's actual target goal all along. With research consistently finding that people are significantly more likely to comply with this smaller follow-up request when it directly follows a refused large request than when the same smaller request is presented on its own without the preceding large request. The leading theoretical explanation for the door-in-the-face effect is the reciprocal concessions principle, proposing that when a requester appears to concede from their initial large, unreasonable request down to a smaller, more moderate one, the target person perceives this apparent concession as a favor requiring reciprocation, creating social pressure to respond in kind by making their own concession, agreeing to the smaller request, consistent with the broader, well-documented social norm of reciprocity that governs much of everyday human social exchange and cooperation. Lowballing involves securing a person's initial agreement or commitment to a seemingly attractive offer or deal, then subsequently revealing additional costs, less favorable terms, or previously undisclosed conditions after that initial commitment has already been made. With research consistently finding that people who have already made an initial commitment frequently follow through with the now less favorable final deal at rates substantially higher than people who are presented with the identical final, complete terms from the very beginning of the interaction. Lowballing's effectiveness is explained by commitment and consistency principles, a broader and well-documented motivational tendency for people to want their subsequent behavior to remain psychologically consistent with a decision or commitment they have already publicly or even privately made, meaning that once a person has mentally committed to a specific purchase or agreement, backing out after less favorable terms are revealed creates uncomfortable psychological inconsistency that many people find more aversive than simply accepting the now less favorable, but still generally acceptable, revised terms of the deal. Foot in the door, door in the face, and lowballing represent 3 distinct, well-documented compliance techniques, each operating through a different underlying psychological mechanism, self-perception, reciprocal concessions, and commitment consistency respectively, that reliably shift the odds of gaining agreement. Offering both practical insight for anyone using persuasion ethically and important awareness for recognizing and resisting these techniques when used manipulatively.